What is happening, guys? Welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On this week's show, we're going to talk about some guys that are getting ready to turn to dust, like when Thanos snapped those fingers and they were just gone. So will be their dynasty value. But I tell you whose value's never been higher. That is my co-host. I'm so glad he's back after a 3-week hiatus. It is, in fact, the man of the hour and the man with the power. Jerry Sinclair, buddy, what's going on?
The only reason my value has not turned to dust is because I was gone for 3 weeks. But let me tell you, I missed being here for the Thanksgiving episode. Now, Tyler did a great job because TG is just a bad MF. But I'm thankful for all of you. I am thankful that I have been able to do this podcast for a long time and just be in a community where I can talk with other people who are absolute psychopaths. Work's been hectic. They've been sending me all around the damn country. I've seen parts of this country I never wanted to see. I have now seen them, but god damn, is it good to be here, sir, especially on the precipice of the playoffs.
Well, that will obviously be the topic for next week. Mini spoiler alert. We'll be talking about the Dynasty playoffs. But tonight we're going to get into some guys that, I mean, let's face it, it happens every single year. And 1 minute they're a top 5 at their position. We have some guys like that we're going to talk about tonight. And then you look back in February and you're like, shit, I couldn't get anything for him. So we're going to jump into that. But I want to hear about your work road trip. And then we're going to do some nonsense at the end. I'm going to ask you if you've seen Gladiator 2, the historical accuracy of it. The normal nonsense with our guest who will be joining us, like I said, here in just a couple of minutes. But how was Omaha? That's where you primarily were. Yeah. We're both poker players. You get any hands in? Did you play any Omaha in Omaha?
I did not. I'm a terrible Omaha player. I like gambling too much. So whenever I play poker, I throw my money around. So that game is not built for me because I'm just not good enough at it. But they have a couple casinos in Council Bluffs. I played a little bit. It was a pretty soft game. I got a quick double up. Omaha's fine. Omaha's nice. I talk crap about Nebraska, but it was all right. It was freezing when I was there, though. It was like 9 degrees or something, which is just silly. Humans should not live in that dog crap.
We've been spoiled, and I know part of it's been the weather here in Indiana. It's been, for the last several years, it's been very mild in the winters. Like, I can't remember the crazy temperatures. We had like one Christmas where it got really cold, but you're right. The cold snap that hit like 2/3 of the country has just wrecked us. And I am not ready for it. I'm clearly the oldest member of this team, but man, the colder it gets, the worse. I'm like, I'm not leaving the house. And then we got snow 2 times. It snowed twice in the last 7 days.
Which sucked. We actually haven't we got probably half an inch and it's all gone already, which is great. That's the thing about Iowa. Iowa gets frigid ass cold, but they don't get tons of snow. Like being from Michigan, we got the lakes everywhere, so we just get dumped out the whole time. That's the one benefit.
Well, these people did not tune in for weather talk across the Midwest. They tuned in for some Dynasty goodness. We're going to give it to them, and we're going to have our guest on the show right after a quick word about Dynasty Deluxe.
This episode is brought to you by PlayerProfiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
It is, in fact, a great deal, and we have a great deal of excitement as we have a guest live in the studio with us. His name is Evan Ringler, and Evan is on Twitter or X, Twix, at Evan Ringler FF, and he is the lead data analytics specialist for Roto Underworld and a first-timer. Evan, welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. Big fan of you guys, so it's cool to be here.
Well, we appreciate that. Before we get into the football, we're going to go. We don't really care about the weather in your local municipality. What I'm curious is that if you follow Evan on Ringler, I'm going to shoot Evan Ringler on X, his background, like you got a nice picture headshot player profiler review, but then you've got Julio Rodriguez. And for those listening who don't know who Julio Rodriguez is, he's a professional baseball player for the Seattle Mariners. And then in meeting Evan and discussing this, you played some college baseball. Is that right?
Yep. A huge baseball guy. That was my first love for sure.
So is it like the analytics? Is that like been like the gap or the bridge to bring you over to the fantasy football and football world from baseball? Was it baseball's love of analytics?
Sort of. I think it was more so just my love of fantasy football and wanting to do more in that area. And at this point, I'm basically running almost all of the rankings on our site and all the metrics. So all that stuff, that's me behind the scenes.
And you're doing a great job. If you go to Player Profiler, the thing runs like a nice Rolex, and Evan has a large hand in that. So, Jerry, do you have any questions for Evan before we get rolling on this thing?
No, but if you think you are going to sit and talk with two people who match your expertise or passion, you are mistaken. We are going to lollygag, and there will be nonsense throughout this hour.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, and we're going to get into the dynasty assets that are going to turn into dynasty dust here very quickly. But we have good tweets. Now, Jerry, I've been very fortunate. I've had guests while you were out working in Nebraska. I've had Tyler Gunther. I've had Tyler Knably, also of Player Profiler, and then our own Jesse Schneeman. But we've had some good people, bad tweets, some good people, bad takes, but this is a good people, good tweets. And this is Mitch, and it's at Dino Mitch. And I know he's with, with Bauer and that group, and I'm drawing a blank, but great tweet. It is perfect as we come up on rookie season, and I will read it out loud. Mitch at Dino MC says, there is going to be a fantasy analyst that says, quote, I really don't like Ashton Genty's running style, unquote. And that is why I have over 200 people muted on this fine app. And I was like, just shut down Twitter. That's the take of the week. Lock it up. We're right around the corner, but I'll start with our guest, Evan. When I read that tweet to you, what do you think? And are you ready for rookie season?
Oh, so ready for rookie season. Probably the best time of the year in Dynasty. It's just so much fun to evaluate all these new prospects. I haven't done a deep dive on Genty yet, but I can tell you that I will not be the one saying that.
What about you, Jerry? Because like my coworkers who know I do a podcast about fantasy football, they're like, oh, season's coming to an end. Things are slowing down. And I'm like, pull a Lee Corso on them. Not so fast, my friend. We're coming up on our busiest time of the year. But these are the kind of tweets we're about ready to see, Jerry.
Yeah, it's going to happen every single year, though. You get to a point where everybody talks about everybody over and over and over again. And you just have to just be different. You can't just go with it. You got to be a little cunty, and you got to say things that are the opposite of everybody else. It'll happen. It'll happen with Travis Hunter. It'll happen with Genty. It'll happen with every quarterback. Every quarterback in this class is going to be a weird time. I already see that happening. I mean, whatever. I 100%, he will retweet that. He'll quote tweet it for whoever does it, and he'll get a bazillion interactions on it. So bravo to him too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a few years ago, there was the one dude that had Jamar Chase as the wide receiver 8 or 9, and not like in overall fantasy as a rookie, but like in that rookie class. You remember the tweet? And I see Evan nodding his head, so he clearly does. Yeah, just be prepared. We'll be in the rookie conversation here probably in 4 or 5 weeks. We're forcing ourselves to get more info on Travis Hunter and Cam Ward and just all of these guys. I love it. Super passionate about it. I just thought that was funny. And when you see a good tweet, you should show it as much love as you show hate for the bad tweet. We still have to give him some Dana White. So in the spirit of good people, bad tweets,
I'm going to tell you this. It was a huge fucking clusterfuck. Yeah. Completely fucking irresponsible. A shit show. Dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, and just completely fucking ridiculous.
That is exactly the kind of tweets Mitch was referring to. So be careful of those. And it's time to be careful of some dynasty assets that are getting ready to snap away. And a big shout out to Brittany. If you're watching live on YouTube, check out the thumbnail. I was like, I'd like to see someone snapped away with the Thanos glove. And it's Christian McCaffrey literally turning to dust like Spider-Man in Endgame, Avengers Endgame. And that was the impetus of this podcast for me. It was like, dude, he went down and it's a PCL injury and it's another injury and he's got tendonitis. I was like, dude, what's his dynasty value? Because that's what my mind reverts to. So I'll just start generally with the topic, and I'll start with Evan. When I told you, hey, we're going to talk about guys who are getting ready to go from a dynasty asset to dynasty dust and like literally worth very little, what did you think of? Did you think of Christian McCaffrey? Was there some other guys you thought of?
Oh, absolutely. First guy that comes to mind is definitely CMC. I actually have an offer in my inbox that I want to get your guys' take on right now. It's Christian McCaffrey in 2 seconds for Jonathan Taylor. And I'm in the playoffs, but, I was really relying on McCaffrey to help fuel this run. What do you guys think of that value?
And you're still in and you can get Jonathan Taylor?
Yep.
He's a running back who's capable of winning you the week. And Jerry, I'll let Jerry reference on how Jerry second round rookie draft pick. So if you've never heard Jerry's philosophy on him, you will appreciate this. I think I do it. You're looking at 1 to 3 more good years out of Jonathan Taylor. Man, with the injury history and Christian McCaffrey, and he's going to be 29 next year, which is not old as in relation to the earth, but it is very old for someone who plays the running back position in the NFL. Going like I think year 9 next year, I would 100% do that. I could care less about those seconds. I'm contending. The Colts have got a pretty favorable playoff schedule. I know they've got the Jags. I know they've got the Titans. They've got the Broncos. Yeah, you're getting a guy and you're doing it at the cost of a couple of seconds to flip flop. Yeah, I'm in. That's me, Jerry.
Nah, I would have already accepted it. I'm good on CMC.
Can you tell him about what you do with second round picks?
I always say that if they fell out of my pocket, I wouldn't bend down and pick them up. Like you're talking about a hit rate that's 25 to 30%. And when they do, that's even if they're a RB2 or a wide receiver 2. They're just, I would much I will never, ever, ever let a second round pick get in the way of a good trade. And if I can get, like Randy said, if I can get Jonathan Taylor for a couple years, even if he's RB 10 to 14, what is CMC going to be? Like he is an unpredictable asset on our dynasty roster. We've seen what he can be. Yes. We've also seen 3 of the last 5 years. He has missed gigantic chunks of the season. We're now on major injury number 3. He's old. I don't think so. Like that team is starting to slip away. I don't know. It just, I'm good. Like I have some teams with Christian McCaffrey. If I can get rid of him, hell yeah. If I can replace him with Jonathan Taylor, shit.
Let me ask you a question.
Deal for me.
Evan, let me ask you, because you are the rankings guy, you have a lot to do behind the scenes. Do you remember top of your head, just a guesstimate's fine, where Christian McCaffrey was ranked in Dynasty coming into the season? So we're talking like maybe we'll say August 1st. Do you remember where he was at?
Yeah, he was around RB4, RB5, something like that.
I think so. I think he was just behind the Gibbses, the Breece Halls, maybe even Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Barkley, depending on where you got your notes. And where do you think he's going to be from a value perspective in startups? Let's say when we update our dynasty rankings at Player Profiler, where do you think he's going to wind up for most of our analysts that do dynasty rankings?
Yeah, so initially on Monday this week, we dropped him down to RB15. that's just the beginning. He's going to keep tumbling. Once we get to startup season in the spring, I wouldn't be surprised if he was maybe RB 30, even RB 40. I wouldn't be, I think there is a decent shot that CMC has a rebound and gives us another elite season. But what are the odds on that? Like, I don't know, 30%, something like that.
Yes, I agree with that. And Jerry, I saw you waving your finger. I think CMC, if you're like a contender, like maybe you finished second in your league this year, and it's rookie draft season, and you're sitting on the 211 because you didn't win the league. Can you give that 211 to someone who wants to move off of Christian McCaffrey? And like Jerry said, he set second round picks on fire all the time. And if you're a contender, then you're hoping, because not only would your dynasty roster be trying to contend next year, you got to think next year is the last year of Brock Purdy's rookie deal. That's the last year. He's super affordable. And then they got to start making decisions. So I could see where the Niners are going to go for one last big year. And why wouldn't you try to get every last ounce out of Christian McCaffrey? I think it's very scary. I have some more guys on this list I want to run by, but Jerry, did you have anything else on CMC?
No, I wanted to look at what we had him. August 4th, we had him as RB6. Where would you put him now, Randy?
Oh,
behind Pacheco, behind Pollard, behind. What about Najee? Is he behind Najee?
First of all,
I think Najee's. I mean, he's going to find a new situation probably. So I mean, his situation's tough too.
Little side rant. All of the people that blamed Arthur Smith for the ineptitude and the lack of performance of Kyle Pitts, go look at my tweet from Tuesday. Just take a quick look. Look at where he's at through 12 games. It's
too many
mind-boggling,
man.
And I will tell you, Arthur Smith has been very good for Najee Harris. We have not seen the emergence or the overtaking by Jaylen Warren. Yeah, and not only do I think Evan's spot on when he says in that 30 to 40 range from a dynasty perspective, I think with this rookie class being as strong as it appears to be on the surface at the running back position, I think 30's the floor, and I don't think 40's out of the realm of I have, unless I'm in the very scenario that I just mentioned, like where I finish second in this league and I can get Christian McCaffrey dirt cheap as opposed to the wide receiver 8 in the 2025 class. I do that to get Christian McCaffrey. Outside of that, I'm out of the Christian McCaffrey business. Is that fair?
100%. It's going to be tough to trade him though, just because of his name value. Because the people that have him are more likely to just hold on to him and let him die. That's
a sunk cost fallacy. They're like, well, I paid X. They paid X, and I couldn't accept Y. We had Tyler Knably on. I would have loved to have got his insight on this because he's our Atlanta Falcons guy. And Evan, I know you're a big Seattle Mariners baseball fan. Who's your pro team?
Oh, I'm a Seahawks fan.
So you're a gentleman from the Great Northwest.
Yep.
Lots of rain. What's your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? I mean, it's easy to have this conversation, but people are already calling for Michael Penix Jr. If someone's in a situation like you're in right now, they have an injured quarterback, maybe they just lost T-Law. Is now a good time to be trying to unload Captain Kirk before the end of the season?
Yeah, I think if you could get rid of him now, that's the move in Dynasty. The guy's body is just not good enough at this point. He can't move in the pocket, and he also has no arm strength. It's a matter of time before he's just completely dust. So try to get out now.
Yeah, and part of it is it's not that his arm strength. I mean, you're a baseball guy. We both know that throwing velocity comes from having a strong, stable lower half from the belt to the ground, and his Achilles and legs are shot. Did you see the interception the other day that just looked like it was like slow motion? It was like a movie. It just hung. And the defender, I mean, he's not driving the ball down the field. It was brutal.
Yeah, that was crazy. I heard somebody say a stat this week. It was like this past game by Kirk Cousins, he didn't throw a single ball over 36 miles an hour.
I heard the exact same thing.
First time that's ever happened in the next gen stats era. And that is just extremely concerning. So I want out in all formats.
Agree, and I do want to harken back before I get Jerry's take on Captain Kirk, Michigan State alumni, just like Gerald over here. That was one of my bold predictions. If you remember our bold prediction show, is that 2024 was going to be the only season as the starter in Atlanta for Captain Kirk. And I think Atlanta, after seeing the success of, every rookie quarterback really to varying degrees, I think they're going to want to see what they have in Michael Penix. Jerry, what are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins?
As far as the ton of interception game, Kirk Cousins does that once a year, every single year. That's not what's the overly concerning part. He always poops his pants at some point. The problem is we're talking about no touchdown passes in the last 3 games. He's being propped up by 3 games against like Dallas and other poop teams where he had 3 or 4 touchdown games. And then the rest is just crickets. No, he's cooked. Love you, Kirk. It's going to be tough for Kenneth Walker to pass you on my favorite Spartans in the NFL, but sorry, dude. Listen, I am not the biggest Michael Penix person in the world. You have to see him. We have just seen a total and utter collapse on their part. Atlanta was primed to walk backwards into the playoffs. They lose 3 games in a row. He hasn't thrown a passing touchdown in those 3 weeks. This dude has gone 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions the last 3 games down the stretch. When you're trying to make the playoffs, get out. Sorry, love you, Kirk. You're always going to walk the streets in Michigan. Love you, buddy, but no. We got to put Penix in.
Is it fair to say that coming into the season, he was a solid QB2? And I've heard rumors of Aaron Rodgers being benched. Do you have to go out and find like a GM in your dynasty league that's just like, screw it, I'm going all in? Yeah, it's Kirk Cousins. I'll throw another name out there, Derek Carr. He looked like trash. Evan, what are your thoughts on Carr?
I think Carr is a little bit different. Mainly because of the contract. They can't get out of that contract. They would save $1 million if they cut him after this year, but we know how the Saints work. They're going to move all that money into the future years to lower his cap hit for next year. That's basically their only option since they're $80 million in the red next year. So he's going to be their starting quarterback unless something crazy happens. And he's also playing with absolutely no weapons right now. MVS is wide receiver 1. I'd say we give the guy a little bit of credit.
I do agree. And then not only that, it's like, and hopefully not a player profiler, and damn sure hope it's not Jerry or I, but have you ever been in the workplace and be like, we've got to fire that guy or we got to replace that lady? You guys ever heard that? Okay. I'm hearing you. With who? Who are we replacing Derek Carr with? We've seen Spencer Rattler. He's not any good. At least in Atlanta, Michael Penix, they spent like what was the 8th or 9th overall pick on that dude. Yeah. You need to get him in the game. Whereas New Orleans, even if they draft a quarterback, Cam Ward, and are you going to draft Milroe that early? Are you going to draft Quinn Ewers that early? I guess if you have a Sean Payton type coach, which is funny because they used to, who has a proven track record of success with quarterbacks, and you can reach early for a Bo Nix. But yeah, I agree with the Derek Carr take. I think whether we like it or whether we don't, he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Nobody's liked having Derek Carr on their dynasty team for the last 10 years.
Right.
But it doesn't mean he hasn't held his value, and he's still going to hold his value next year for whatever that value is worth. The question is with Kirk Cousins, like, what situation would you have to be in to want to have him on your team? And I don't think there is one, because a contender doesn't really want one. He's not throwing touchdown passes. A rebuilder sure as hell doesn't want him.
It would have to be like a panic situation. Like I have nothing else.
Yeah. Like I just lost Trevor Lawrence. I already had, Dak Prescott or something. And you've just been,
you can't even field the position.
Shoestring and bubblegum trying to hold your team together.
It's very tough. But this is the reason for this show. And we're going to do the opposite of this show in the off season, because like right now, this is last chance to get off of guys that are playing. They may not even be producing. They just may be healthy in the case of a Derek Carr. But they will be literally worth nothing. And then veterans and then rookie picks become super valuable, which is great. Can you start buying veterans cheap? I got a couple of tight ends I want to run by you guys. I'll start with Evan. Evan, who's older, Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz?
Oh man, I'm gonna say Kelce.
Okay, Jerry, who's older, Kelce or Ertz?
I'd say Kelce too.
It is. It's Kelce by 11 months, but it just feels like Zach Ertz has been in the league for 107 years.
I mean, he has. They both have been in the league for 107 years,
and both guys are still playing well.
Mm-hmm.
But Ertz for sure is going to turn to dust. That's not really a debate. But what does Kelce's value, Evan, look like in February? I mean, does he retire? You see the money podcasters are getting. You see the money the Manning brothers are getting for hosting their show. And I like Eli and Peyton. I'm a Colts fan. I live right north of Indianapolis. And as much as I like Peyton and Eli, I think a show on ESPN or Fox Sports with the Kelce brothers would do way better. He could probably make close to the same money. He's dating one of the richest women in the world. I mean, money's not an issue. Could Travis Kelce retire, Evan, at the end of the season and just leave Dynasty GMs holding the bag?
Could he? I mean, I'd say it's like a 90% chance he retires. I think he only came back this year to try and go for the three-peat. Otherwise, he probably just wouldn't be playing this year. He obviously has way better things to do with his life than take a beating every week on a football field. So, yeah, I would say more likely than not, he's done.
What say you, Jer?
I would agree. I mean, but I've also been talking about Travis Kelce retiring for the last couple of years. So, listen, as a Lions fan, I'm hoping that boy doesn't come anywhere near number 3. But, I mean, Travis Kelce is always going to be a polarizing figure just because he's got Patrick Mahomes, and when he is on the field, he changes the game. And at a position that is so putrid, like the tight end, you have to rank him more so than you would anybody else in that same situation. Like you said, Zach Ertz is 11 months younger. What's Zach Ertz worth?
See, if
like a wet sock.
I'm going to continue, and we're all in this situation. I'm just having some fun with our guests. But if you're in Evan's situation, but the position's not running back, it's tight end. I mean, would you rather right now go pay what the Kelce owner wants for Kelce, or who is currently the tight end 4 on the season, or would you rather have Zach Ertz, who is the tight end 7 on the season? Standard PPR, they are performing within about 2 and 2.25 points of each other. I mean, I think you could get Ertz for like a third in tight end premium. Which one would you rather have? Or let me say you at cost, Evan, which one would you rather have, Kelce or Ertz?
Yeah, and Kelce's probably going to cost you more than a second, I would think, depending on the context. But yeah, give me Ertz at cost for sure.
What about you, Jer?
100%. Not even close, honestly. Because Ertz is going to cost you nothing. Ertz is one of those picks that falls out of my pocket, and I wouldn't even notice it if it was gone.
And it's an easy conversation to have, because the Kelce conversation when you're approaching other GM is like, well, it's still Travis Kelce, and I don't know, and he's been so good since the back half of the season. Because if you look at Kelce from week 8 on, he's in the top 3 at the tight end position and had some and I'm not even talking premiums here, but how much easier is it to say, hey, Zach Ertz GM, hey, he's only got a couple more games, right? We've seen this situation before, right? Ben Sinnott's coming, right? I am trying to rent him from you for a third, and I think that's being generous. I think that's an easy conversation to have in the Dynasty game.
100%.
Honestly, you should be willing to sell him for a fourth. If you're not
anything
competing.
you get, it's free. It is free. Zach Ertz was worth nothing. He wasn't worth a fourth. Last rookie season, you weren't getting a fourth.
No.
Now, if you get anything, it's like stealing. In some countries, if they gave you a fourth for Zach Ertz, they cut off your hands because you were stealing. So anyway, I got a couple more. Tyler Lockett. I don't know that you can get anything for Tyler Lockett, but is this the end, Evan, of Tyler Lockett? What a perfect guest to have on, being our Seattle resident expert. What are your thoughts on Lockett? Is he just done?
Sadly, yes. I love Tyler Lockett, one of my favorite players of all time. He's just so likable, and I love his play style, even though, he refuses to run after the catch. I still love him. But yeah, he's absolutely cooked. I think he has like a 12% target share this year. He's essentially worth absolutely nothing, and he's got a real estate career to get started now.
One of the, I don't want to say, I think consistent. He's been a consistent wide receiver too, from a point standpoint, not a dynasty value standpoint. I mean, I'm thinking back to 2017, 2018, just been a very solid producer. He's given us 7 give or take years of really good, when healthy, regardless of quarterback play, fantasy value. Jerry, I'm assuming you're also out on the on Mr. Lockett, and Jerry,
Yeah.
and then throw it back to Evan. What are your thoughts on Jackson Smith-Njigba going forward? He's had a couple of nice pop games over the last month. Well, I'm sure your take will be short on Lockett, but really, I want to hear what you guys think about JSN.
We do that. As far as Tyler Lockett is concerned, I feel like Tyler Lockett was just straight up the heir apparent of Doug Baldwin.
Yes.
It was like Doug Baldwin was an underappreciated guy who was always producing, and then it was like immediately Tyler Lockett was the same person. It's just they've always had that person. As for JSN, he's a goonie. Randy, I have sat on this podcast numerous times and besmirched the good name of Jackson Smith-Njigba. Randy, I tried to trade Breece Hall for him this week, and I got told no.
Wow. What that
You don't think you think that's crazy?
I don't think it's crazy, but I mean,
I'm rebuilding. I have Breece Hall. I would rather build my core around a young wide receiver.
100%.
This targets 13, 11, 7. Then he had 4 this past week, but 180 yards, 110 yards, 77 yards, 74 yards. Dude's been kicking ass. He's 22, and Tyler Lockett's about to be out the door.
Yeah, and
he's a foundational piece.
I think he's a wide, in my opinion, he's a wide receiver too that has wide receiver upside. So I say, 100%. when I value him, I will value him as wide receiver 13 to 24. I've not done my end of the year ranks. I've not added in this upcoming rookie class. None of the above. But you mentioned Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett. There's not been a much more steady producer in fantasy sports than that Seattle smaller slot style wide receiver. And if that mantle's being passed to JSN, even though I've also been a bit of a naysayer on JSN, I want in. And now is the time. I don't think Seattle will invest in the wide receiver core. If they do, it may be like a speedier guy, but they've got the money invested in DK. They've got JSN on a cheap rookie deal. They like Noah Fant. For our patron podcast last week, I did a little some sneaky players I'm looking at. I like AJ Barner. I think he's a kid who might have well, okay. So I've hogged the mic enough. I want to hear about your takes on JSN because you're living it right there in the Northwest.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning AJ Barner, because that entire time you were talking, I was just thinking, man, I really want to talk about AJ Barner right now.
Please.
Because Noah Fant is out the door this year. AJ Barner is flashed in the receiving game and the blocking game. I think that he could be a dual threat tight end like that and the tight end of the future in Seattle. So great, super deep dynasty stash in tight end premium leagues for sure. On JSN, I've been comparing him recently to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think they have very similar play styles. JSN has amazing hands. He can win at every level of the field. It's really about his role in the offense. And we've seen that evolve over the last month or so. And now he's producing like we expect him to. I am pretty much all in on JSN. I think that he can do everything. And like I said, I think the thing that separates him is his hands. His hands are amazing. He catches everything.
Yeah, and I like him because he wins in the way that we win in the NFL. You know, I like DK. Jerry will tell you I'm not a huge fan of those big body clashers on the outside. DK's not quite like a Des Bryant type, but that's not the way the game's really played in 2024 going into 2025. And I would say and Jerry, you're the Lions fan, if you got 85% of Amon-Ra St. Brown out of Jackson Smith-Njigba going forward, aren't you thrilled?
You're thrilled. And I think he's right. Just because if you switch their roles, if you switch Amon-Ra St. Brown, put him on Seattle with Geno, and you put Jackson Smith-Njigba with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, I'm guessing he looks just like Amon-Ra St. Brown does, and Amon-Ra St. Brown would look just like JSN does. It's just a different offense. I think the players are similar. I think that's an unbelievable comparison. The only thing you want to see from a dynasty perspective is this continue, because if it's streaky like this, where it's 1 month is good, 1 month is bad, then you're Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, that sort of chunk, Devonta Smith. But if he's continuously consistent like he has been for this month, and it is that way going forward, then yes, this man is absolutely Amon-Ra St. Brown dynasty value-wise.
Well, when one man turns to dust, someone has to step up to fill them shoes. We're going to figure out who some of the guys who are still reasonably valuable or attainable at a reasonable cost, but you want to get them before we get too deep in the offseason. But if you're out of the fantasy playoffs, if you're out of the Scott Fish Bowl and you're looking for something to do, you might want to play some DFS over at FastDraft.
Oh, incredible news about FastDraft. FastDraft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith-Njigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and FastDraft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon it's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on FastDraft. Don't forget there's free tools on FastDraft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have FastDraft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on FastDraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
You got to check out the FastDraft app. It's quasi legal in the state of Indiana. Evan, I know you've had a little bit of a hand in FastDraft. Are you doing much FastDraft DFS right now?
I'm not playing. I create the slates for these tournaments.
Oh, that's right, because of the legalities of it. You're not allowed to play.
Correct. And I will say, for the Dynasty audience out there, I think FastDraft will probably be the best place to prepare you for your rookie drafts this year with the Origins tournament that we'll have, which is all 2025 rookies. And that'll be dropping very soon before the season is over. So that'll be very exciting.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about some exciting guys that are getting ready to take over. And I'm going to stick with the tight ends because I think there's a few of them around the corner. It's Noah Gray for me. I've been on this way, and he feels like the most obvious. I think the other most obvious is Michael Penix. We'll get to Michael Penix here in just a minute, but I don't want to fall in love with the touchdown variance. Noah Gray had 2 touchdowns in 2 games back to back, which really, given the overall performance of the tight end position, slingshotted him up the rankings of the tight end position. But from an analytics, I guess, and a dynasty standpoint, Evan, what do you think of Noah Gray?
Well, the interesting part is that there is clearly a role for him in the future. And the fact that we've seen the chemistry that he has with Patrick Mahomes is probably not on the level of Kelsey. We're not hoping for anything like that. But I think there's a pretty good chance that he'll be ranked around like tight end 12 to 15 in redraft leagues next year, assuming Kelsey does walk. What
about you, Jerry? What are your thoughts on Noah Gray? Because I guess I was kind of ahead of you in predicting the downfall of Travis Kelce, in that I've got a ton of Noah Gray on a lot of rosters. I'm excited because it feels like a lottery ticket getting ready to come in.
You were ahead of me on Travis Kelce's downfall, but you were not ahead of me on Noah Gray because only one of us had him in our top 24 on August 18th of 2024. No, I'm in. And I think Evan's right. The moment Travis Kelce's gone, even if you don't believe in Noah Gray, even if you think he's the biggest crumb bum you have ever seen in your life, the moment Travis Kelce leaves, he's the tight end one with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. His value becomes exponentially more inflated. So even if you don't believe in him and you don't think that role is going to grow, it's still an opportunity for you to profit. But if you are a person that believes in him, like yours truly, then yeah, hell yeah. And no, I don't need him to be Travis Kelce. I need him to be 65% of what Travis Kelce is, and that's still a tight end one. And that's I'm so cool with that.
All right, well, let's get to the big name. I think Noah Gray and Kelce are kind of obvious. Let's talk Michael Penix Jr. I'll start with Evan. Evan, where do you think we'll see him? First of all, do you think he'll be the starter in Atlanta in 2025? Do they go full Denver Broncos, rip off the Band-Aid, get rid of the expensive veteran? We got the rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and we're just going to turn it over to Michael Penix. Where do you think he'll be going in startups, given this rookie class upcoming, given the overall play at the quarterback position?
I think everything to do with that Atlanta Falcons quarterback room really comes down to these next 2 or 3 weeks. If Kirk Cousins can keep them afloat and possibly scrape into the playoffs, then he'll probably return for 2025, at least as the starter initially. I would still expect Penix to be the starter sooner rather than later. At the latest, it would be 2 years from now, but I would expect him to probably get some run late this season. And, next season, maybe Kirk gets a few games and looks bad again. Penix is right back in there. In terms of startup price, right now we have him around quarterback 18 and 16 actually. And I would expect him to go a little bit lower than that in startups, maybe QB 20.
Wow. What about you, Jer?
I can't imagine that Kirk Cousins is going to stick around. I understand you paid him an ungodly amount of money, so you sort of have to. But at some point, if they don't make the playoffs this year, there's 0% chance that fan base is not going to want to see Michael Penix, because they didn't expect you to draft Michael Penix. So then if you do draft Michael Penix in that spot and then you don't play him, you're doing dipshit move after dipshit move, and the noise will get too loud, and your entire career as a GM is based on this man. So you are going to want to see this man. He's got a good situation, good-ish situation. And, like I said earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Penix. It's growing more so on me because of the other quarterbacks and the success that they have had. The other rookies, excuse me. Just because I would have said, he's 24 years old. He's played forever. Of course, he looked good playing against a bunch of 19-year-olds. But who are the quarterbacks that are doing really good in the NFL immediately? All of the guys that played a shitload of games in college. Bo Nix played a ton of games, looking good. Jaden Daniels played a ton of games, looking good. Caleb Williams played quite a bit of games and has had a little bit of a learning curve, but has also looked pretty damn well. You see things like Anthony Richardson played 1 year, sort of looking like mud butt. Not exactly what you want to see. Michael Penix played a ton in the Big Ten, played a ton in the Pac-12, played in big games. He's been around the block, and now he gets to sit and watch Kirk Cousins, which you can find out about all the mistakes that Kirk Cousins is making, all 4 of those interceptions last week. But also, Kirk Cousins is a pro. This is a dude that has been a starting quarterback for 12 years. He was drafted to be just some guy behind the number 2 overall pick, who then won the Offensive Rookie of the Year and ended up taking his job. So this is clearly a man you should listen to, no matter how corny he is and how many times he says the word golly when he's upset. But Michael Penix, 100% is a buy, 100% someone you should go through quick, because the moment that this is just like Noah Gray, the moment Michael Penix is given the opportunity and he is the starter, that price is too expensive for you, because you are going to have to pay buku money for a young quarterback in a good situation. Do it now.
Couple of fun things. Now, mind you, and Evan may beat me up because he's the serious analytics fellow here, but just some rudimentary math, and I know post June 1, blah, blah, blah. Kirk Cousins' dead cap number, if he's cut next year, is $65 million. The Atlanta Falcons currently have about $9 million in cap space. So let's call it $55 million. They'd have to figure out how to get under the cap. The funny thing is that the Atlanta Falcons could cut Kirk Cousins today and still have $20 million more of cap space than the New Orleans Saints.
Insane.
That is insane to me. I would not be surprised to see the Atlanta Falcons see the success of the Denver Broncos, knowing that division, even with some cap ramifications for a couple of years. You know, is Tampa Bay a long-term threat? I mean, we see New Orleans is stuck with Derek Carr. Bryce Young, very improved, but I don't know about long-term. So I thought that was fun. We're coming up close to the hour, but I do have one that we didn't mention the old guy in front of him. But Evan, what are your thoughts on Rome Odunze? Because it's been a slow rookie season, as rookie seasons can be. We've talked about Jackson Smith-Njigba, but just look at Thursday when the game's on the line. They got to try to go for it all. Who is Caleb Williams looking to get the ball to? I think long term, Rome Odunze is going to be a hit.
Yeah, that's essentially how I feel as well. We were very high in general on Rome Odunze coming in, and that hasn't really wavered. We have dropped him from about wide receiver 13 to wide receiver 16 recently, but we're still well ahead of the market and buying Rome at this point. And you might have to wait. But I think he is that Garrett Wilson, Drake London type of player. And it's just, when does the situation hit? And the thing about Rome's situation is he has the quarterback with him already. It's just about everything else getting figured out.
What about you, Jerry? Because I think you had Rome, if I remember correctly, I'm going to put Jerry on the spot here. I think you had Rome Odunze ahead of Malik Neighbors when we did our rookie wide, and that wasn't a bold take, guys. I mean, I know Malik Neighbors has had a very good rookie season, and Rome has struggled. He had a good rookie stretch.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's going to get a quarterback upgrade.
Quarterback struggles took over, which was sort of predicted by certain people.
Well, and Caleb gets a bit of the deference of, hey, the play caller, the OC Shane Waldron was terrible. Well, shouldn't that be the same deference we give to Rome Odunze? Jerry, are you out acquiring Rome Odunze right now?
100%. 100%. And listen, I know I poo-pooed on Malik Neighbors a little bit because he blew up in the beginning of the season, which is the absolute best time for a rookie to do anything, because now his value has been inflated for the rest of his life. He's got the ultimate PR team. No, 100%. And listen, Keenan Allen has been absolute dog crap until the last 2 weeks. He finally decided, once he was playing the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, that he wanted to steal a little bit of my happiness away. Luckily, Matt Eberflus is legitimately a bonehead. But no, I'm in on Rome Odunze. Keenan is not going to be around. That boy is 3 biscuits short of being Kelvin Benjamin. And DJ Moore doesn't look the same that he has either. And Caleb Williams is starting to grow. And we are starting to see flashes of just brilliance. Because that first half of that Thanksgiving game, that team didn't exist. And that second half, that boy was cooking one of the best defenses in the NFL. So, hell yeah, Rome Odunze.
All right. I want to start with Evan. Evan, is there anybody else you want to bring up? Any other young guy, a guy who's getting ready to replace somebody? You see something, you see a career maybe coming to an end, or some dynasty value coming to an end, and like a young guy we need to be ahead of?
I don't know if this necessarily fits the bill, but recently I've been thinking a lot about Khalil Shakir. I was doing some research on him today, actually. And so over the last 5 games, Shakir has at least a 21% target share and at least 11 points in every game, except for the snow game where he only got 7 points. And his air yards has been going up a lot as well. From 3% early in the season, now he's at 31% over his last 3 games. So I'm really in on Khalil Shakir as more than just a Wan'Dale Robinson type player. I think that he could be more of like that Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers kind of value. And he is priced much lower than those guys in Dynasty.
What do you? I've always, not say always, but I've been a longtime supporter of Khalil Shakir, and I just like quarterbacks attached to good. I mean, I like wide receivers attached to good quarterbacks. It's not exactly rocket science here, guys. It's like the reason why I like Bo Nix. Did I think Bo Nix was the greatest quarterback prospect I'd seen in my time doing Dynasty? No, but I've seen the success of Sean Payton over multiple decades in the NFL, and I thought, kid's not bad, probably going to do okay. And we're going to talk a lot about drafting situations this year as much as the analytics, because I would love to be able to marry up what Evan does with Player Profiler and take the analytical data that says, hey, this is the vacated targets. This is, a good situation analytically. Hey, it's a good situation philosophically. The guy fits the scheme. We'll get some of the college fans, maybe Jerry, and we're going to try to marry that up to land some rookies. But yeah, I've been a Shakir guy. Jerry, what about you? Do you have a guy, or do you have anything on Shakir?
I've never been like a super Shakir guy, but I have so many shares of the man, and it's simply just because he is with Josh Allen. But also, I'm looking at his numbers right now, and Evan, you are cooking with fire, my friend, because you just look at those targets over the last 2 months. 7, 10, 7, 9, 12, and then Snowpocalypse. But even in the Snowpocalypse, bro got 7 targets. And if this man becomes 80% of Jaden Reed, I mean, that's a good value. I think that's an awesome take. I mean, 24 years old. I mean, former 2nd, 3rd round rookie pick. So he's always going to be a value just because he never had that PR team. Get out of here.
It's in the chat. Jerry's a Tigers fan, so we have Ruckus in the chat. He's like, "Is that a White Sox hat?" And I'm like, "No, Jerry's is a Tigers hat, and mine is a Red Sox hat. So there's
not a baseball guy though. You just got to rep the old English D.
No one smokes meth on this podcast. Well, we're coming up toward the end of the show. But I'll start with Evan. Evan, did you see Gladiator 2?
No.
Oh, no. Now, Jerry, have you seen it?
It is on the list. So
okay.
There are several movies out that the lady would like to see. Believe it or not, the person that's getting his master's in ancient history did not win the vote for Gladiator 2. So I saw Moana 2, which was an absolute fucking banger, just for the record. But Moana's a badass, so that's not a surprise. But no, so I take it you saw it.
I did opening night, and
okay. So no spoilers. But
no spoilers?
What historical questions do you have?
The 2 brothers who were the heirs, who became the co-emperors of Rome. What were their names again, and how did they get there?
Caracalla and Gaeta is, I'm assuming, who they were.
Yes, that's who. Now that I couldn't remember that. That's why I don't have a degree in ancient history, which I don't know why anyone would. But we're getting off the track. we're getting off the track here. But yeah, how did they,
two of the most despicable their dad. 2 of the most despicable emperors in the history of Rome. Their father was Septimus Severus. He was actually a badass. This is how it always works in Rome. Total badass emperor has a son, gives their son the ruling dynasty instead of somebody that deserves it, turns into poop every single time. But yeah, horrible. So, fun fact. Hopefully I'm not spoiling the movie by giving you historical facts that have been around for 2,000 years. So if I do, piss
No,
off.
no, no.
If you had read a history book, it's been around for 2,000 years since these guys. Well, like
First of all, it's been 2
1900
weeks.
years.
We're well past spoiler range. It's been
I'm just
2
saying.
weeks. I highly recommend it. My son,
is
who
what
is
I'll
not
say.
my son, who is not a fan of the original, he went with me. He really
Hold on. What did Vincent say about the first one?
He's seen the first one. He didn't love it like the way I love it. But
Take his phone away. No, take his phone away. He doesn't deserve a phone.
You can tell how good a movie is to where when you ask someone like, "Hey, would you go see it again?" Or do you want to see it again? And we were both like, yeah, we would go see that. Now we won't, but yeah, I just thought it was much watched, and I wanted to get your take on it. But enough nonsense. I just wanted to get
Hold on.
Gladiator.
Let me ask
Sure.
one question. I'm gonna see it, but do they like each other in the movie?
The brothers.
Yeah.
There's animosity.
Okay, because they are like, in reality, they are like the fiercest of enemies, and it ends poorly for one of them. That's what I'll say.
It's in there. All right, enough shenanigans. I promise some Gladiator talk. Evan, what's going on with your analytics at Player Profiler? And if you notice the setup on YouTube, Evan got great headphones. He's got a nice, premium mic.
Well,
it makes me think he's going to be on.
He said, he's doing everything, so I'm not surprised.
Well, here's the thing about guys like Evan. This is why, little spoiler. Speaking of spoilers, spoiler alert. This is how the Podfather has taken Player Profiler to the top of the mountain in the fantasy and now app space as it relates to football. First of all, he surrounds himself with really good, talented people like Evan, and then also Jerry and I. But he surrounds himself with really good talent, and that's what Evan does. But man, like I said, I see the microphone, I see the headphones. That's good. That's good quality stuff. That tells me that you might be doing more in front of the camera on the mic, while you'll still do stuff behind the scenes, do your analytics. Are we going to see more of you on the microphone this year?
Yeah, we're ramping it up. This year I launched a solo pod. It's called Stat Masters. You can check it out. It is quick, hard hitting, basically just stats for 10 to 15 minutes. Just stats and takeaways. So yeah, check that out. That drops on Fridays. And then I do occasional shows with Matt, risers and fallers in Dynasty, stuff like that as well. But besides that, you can find all my work at playerprofiler.com. All the rankings, that's what I'm spending all my time on. So yeah.
Jerry, I just had a wonderful idea. So you have to have the grizzled veterans. That's you and me. You got to have the young up and comers. That's Evan. And you know what? Maybe when we retire, we hand this thing over to Evan and Tyler Knably. They can just take this Dynasty game into the next generation and really take it off. What do you think?
No, we're like the old guys that gets passed by because we scout by our gut. Meanwhile, Moneyball is just running by us.
It's not, because we're affiliated with Player Profiler. This is why we have Evan on. This is why we have Tyler Knably on. This is why Matt will not be passed by in the space that we're in, is because Matt surrounds himself not only with talented people, but young people. You have to have young, strong bench. The next generation has to be in the works, and that's what we got going on. You heard the man, Stat Masters. You can find that on Fridays. Are you going to continue that in the off season, Evan?
Yes.
Okay.
At a slower pace, but yeah.
Sure, like maybe every other Friday, maybe like some rookie stats. Hey, the Bears opening could be, I don't know. I'm just filibustering at this point. But last thing, if you made it all the way to the end, all the multiple hundreds of you who made it all the way to the end, can we ask you for a favor? And I'll speak for the three of us. Can you subscribe to the YouTube channel? I mean, you're here. It costs $0. It's free and it helps the show. We're moving toward 30,000. That's a milestone, and we can get there by the end of 2024 if you subscribe. And again, speaking of analytics, I've seen some that maybe 1 in 4 of you that are watching on YouTube are a subscriber. $0. and you'll never miss an episode. You'll get the Dynasty WarZone, you'll get Stat Masters, you'll get Mind a Mansion, one of the 13 podcasts that our buddy Theo does. You will never miss a show on Player Profiler. So you can subscribe there. We mentioned AJ Barner earlier. That I covered that last week on our patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. We got Jerry back. Evan, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, man. And thank you to everybody in the chat. Good chat for a 5 p.m. live stream. And we'll be back next week, man. Fantasy playoffs are here. Week 15, we're going in there. We got Jerry back. We're going to be talking about playoffs. And that's it. We're talking about playoffs. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week with more Dynasty goodness. Thanks, guys.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.